Hello, and thank you for participating in today's webinar, Black Hills Energy, the 2017 Furnace Contractor SPIF program that is part of HVAC Save. This webinar should only take about 30 to maybe 45 minutes. So we'll get through this without hesitation and try to leave here some time at the end for questions. The purpose and goal of this SPIF program. It's to improve installed performance and to create accountability. So traditionally, the AFUE rebate is designed to encourage the customer to purchase a higher rating. This program, the Contractor SPIF program, is designed to encourage the customer to purchase deeper installation services. The program believes the installation contractor and their services make a difference, and a big difference. The program believes a wide range of different installation services exist in the market. And the program believes that a quality-minded and well-intentioned contractor will offer deep installation services, either as a second-tier offering or as their default offering. Now, where do installation services impact energy consumption? There are 4 primary fault points in opportunities, energy savings opportunities. The first is system air pressure and system air flow. The second is combustion efficiency. The third is equipment sizing, and the fourth is duct loss. This program, the Black Hills Contractor SPIF program, focuses on furnace throughput efficiency. So essentially that limits it to system air pressure and airflow, combustion efficiency, and sizing. In other words, they're choosing to keep their duct loss, duct leakage incentive as a separate rebate, not unlike the other program sponsors that participate in the HVAC Save program. So let's talk about that. How does this program compare to the other furnace programs? Technically, it's similar, very similar to Mid-American, Alliant, and Cedar Falls. As a contractor, you must be enrolled in the HVAC Save program, and the job itself must pass the job recognition and verification steps that come through the third-party review. The program software provides 100% auto verification and also escalations to a filed review or potentially a field review. You, the contractor, will use the performance data to assess the initial performance, to improve that performance, and to verify your own work. This is a new development, the software in this program. Prior to HVAC Save, it was assumed you really didn't have the visibility and transparency of installed performance that you do now. Following the approval of your own work, you will submit the job to the program, and the program will process it. And of course, all other Black Hills program policies must also be satisfied. Now, compared to the other furnace programs, economically, the Black Hills program is different to Mid-American, Alliant, and Cedar Falls. Principally, it's an option to the customer. In other words, the customer can participate in the AFUE rebate through any contractor. Okay, so they don't necessarily have to choose a contractor who's willing to verify the job and submit it for approval. You can get the AFE rebate from anybody. Now, should the customer choose to participate in the program, the incentive is $150 payable to you, the contractor, and an additional $100 payable to them, the customer. Okay, so have you all been through 2 days or 1 day worth of training and perhaps quite a few jobs over the last few years, but I just did want to have a couple slides to touch on some of those elements that were in training and that you are currently practicing. A refresher, if you will, for those that have not been active because of their work primarily in Black Hills territory. First of all, in terms of performance and energy savings, what we are seeing for furnaces is a 16% performance improvement, resulting in a 6.5% annual gas savings. Now, I bring to your attention the numbers for central air conditioners and heat pumps as well. They're more significant, 22 to 25% performance improvement, resulting in 10 to 12% annual electric savings. So I bring this to your attention for really obvious reasons, or reasons that will become obvious to you when you think it through, and that is that in the case of central air conditioners, the furnace is oftentimes, or most times, the air handling unit. So with furnaces, it's a self-contained box. And with air conditioners, you have a situation where there are still plenty of customers that purchase air conditioners on top of legacy air handling units, and the contractors are unable or unwilling to go in and set airflow for cool mode. I would add that the impact of oversizing is a little bit more significant too with air conditioners. Okay, so again, here are the three aspects that we're dealing with. The installation aspects. This is the focus of the HVAC SAVE program. It's the focus of the Black Hills SPIF. So we're talking about system air pressure, system airflow, and combustion efficiency. You can see over here we've got an illustration. Here's the airflow. You've got the cooler air coming in here through the return, going through the return drop here, passing through the air filter, the air cleaner, and then up here through the heat exchanger, and then out into the supply. This is a nice graphical illustration. The somewhat flaw to it here is it does not include an evaporator coil, which of course is it's a significant consideration here, and it's a typical consideration in our area of the country. Okay, the design aspects, which is also an element to the program, not necessarily the primary focus, but an element, and that's sizing. So furnace sizing tolerances to the industry standard are 100 to 140%. So it's not uncommon, although it's somewhat more difficult to oversize a furnace. If you think for a moment, they typically are available in 40, 60, 80, and 100 BTUs. So to get beyond this 40%, you almost have to leapfrog a whole size. And while again that does happen, it's not nearly as frequent or as impactful as oversizing a central air conditioner or heat pump, which has a more narrow sizing tolerance. The other element here is the method of formal load calculations. This program does not require a full manual J, simply because we know that many contractors have other alternatives available through their membership organizations or their OEMs that are a method of formal load calculation, but not necessarily full manual J, so we don't verify that. So the third aspect, which again is not part of this program, is duct loss. Okay, so that's duct airflow leakage. My second refresher slide here, selecting, adjusting, and verifying. the things that you as a contractor can do. Before I hit those, I want to show you, here's a different illustration. It's a little bit more rudimentary, but as you can see, it does present the evaporator coil mounted on top of the furnace blower unit. And so for that reason, it's a little bit more accurate to the types of installations that we're used to. Selecting. Okay, so this is the pre-installation step, and it is very important. You might have the best technician on the planet, but he or she may not be set up to succeed without a proper selection process. So in addition to capacity sizing, we have to look at the components and the impact to airflow, the external components, as well as the blower motor. So we want to make sure that you are choosing an evaporator coil with the least penalty to airflow. Okay, so coils have gotten bigger over the years. Pressure across the coil has gotten more significant over the years. It's a real consideration now, potential problem now. And so as you're choosing the coil, you're going to likely have to choose to a rating, because that's what the customer is choosing to. But what you'll want to do is you'll want to choose the match coil that's got the least penalty to airflow. Okay, so whether that's an OEM match or a third party, select the one that's got the least penalty. Now, if you're only if you're only replacing the furnace, be certain that you clean the existing coil to like new condition. The second selection consideration is the filter. Similar story. As the MERV ratings have grown over the years, the penalty to airflow has also grown. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's the least penalty to airflow there. So a properly sized filter in terms of its XY dimensions is absolutely necessary. And you'll also find when you look at the pressure drop tables, the air resistance tables for those filters, that a deeper filter of like rating typically will have a less of a penalty to the flow rate. And then, of course, you want to be careful selecting a tolerant blower motor. Nowadays, you usually can get both a variable capacity as well as a PSC motor that will tolerate up to 0.8 indoor water column external static in heat mode, if not more. But there are a few out there that don't go beyond 0.5, and that's pretty restrictive, and it's difficult for your technician to succeed in that environment. Okay, the adjusting steps. You may need to solve a return air problem. Okay, so this is the part of the ductwork discussion that is directly related to blower performance. Okay, so the drop has to be properly sized. You have to ensure there's enough return airflow. If for some reason there's obstructions in the trunk, you may need to remove those. So solving a return air problem is a consideration. We've even run into a few situations where the drop is too big and there's not enough static pressure to move the air, in which case static pressure has to have been added. Again, you've selected a coil and filter, but you're going to have to measure those to make sure that the impact to the airflow, the resistance to the airflow, is not more significant than you expected. You have the ability to adjust the blower speed, and again, you may need to adjust the blower speed up. That will also increase pressure, so you have to find that balance there. And then finally, you'll tune your combustion efficiency, which is a matter of gas pressure and venting. And then, of course, verifying final performance. Fortunately, in this particular case, we're guaranteed a brand new blower in every instance. So we can use the OEM blower performance tables to plot CFM. We'll measure the temperature rise, and then we'll also clock the gas meter to verify the furnace firing rate. Okay, now just two more slides, and then I'm going to show you the software and the guides. In the software, you're going to find there's 2 new job types this year. 2017 Black Hills Energy residential or commercial rebate spiff. That's what we're going to use here. So to be clear, Black Hills does have programs for both furnaces going into a residence and furnaces going into a place of business. 2 different forms, 2 different job types. Most important, process and preparation are your friends. If we've learned anything over the first 3 years of this program, excuse me, I've got to go back up. If we've learned anything over the first 3 years of this program, it can get frustrating if you have not prepared and if you are not comfortable with the process. So set your expectations before you dispatch. And I'll show you a cheat sheet that'll do that. But you can virtually have all your expectations in place before you leave. The only 2 things that maybe you're not going to know are going to be the return and supply duct pressures. But you can get really everything else. Ideally, we'd like to see you verify and approve your work on site through the software before you leave. That would prevent any callbacks, or most likely prevent any callbacks. Now, it's not necessary. If you're not comfortable with that, with proper preparation, you're probably going to be okay. But it is ideal. And frankly, it's an advantage of the program. Again, for the first time, you have access to performance on demand, on site, before you leave. We always recommend a second look. So perhaps the supervisor or the owner-manager of the firm, or even the salesperson who sets the expectations with the customer to begin with, should take a second look. What we've learned, if the field professional approves his work, somebody else at that firm also approves the work, then the likelihood of it going smooth at the utility goes way up. And then once you get through those 2 steps, you'll submit to the utility, you'll collaborate with the verifier, and you'll track it moving forward. Okay, real quick, before I get into just a few minutes in the software, I did want to highlight some other very relevant benefits that are additional to the utility rebate program. First of all, a program like HVAC Save ensures your customer gets the full benefit of their investment. So what we're doing here with furnaces is we're seeking to convert as much of that gas coming in to heat coming out. That's what they're buying. They're not buying the box, they're buying comfort, they're buying heat. If your conversion efficiency is optimal, then they are in fact getting the full benefit of their investment. Dependability and reliability. Can't emphasize this enough. So many of you, if not all of you, have service departments as well. And you know, the typical sales pitch for a service department is as long as the equipment is been maintained and is cleaned, then it will not have an airflow problem. And if it does not have an airflow problem, then it won't have a concern with the durability of the blower or the heat exchanger. It's the same principle here with the installation. You can have airflow problems because of an installation fault, not just a maintenance fault. For example, my home in Urbandale, I had to replace the blower motor in year 4. My static pressure is outside the OEM range. That's the reason. So, you know, you can help your customer to avoid unnecessary repairs and early death due to airflow problems. And of course, that's fewer callbacks for you too. Finally, a program like this encourages full system changeouts. So what we mean is this: the OEM matches this equipment for a reason. They match heating and cooling equipment, indoor and outdoor equipment, air moving equipment. There are plenty of customers who only want to take one step at a time, and we certainly understand that. But a program like this really sends them the message that you're not just trying to sell them something. You're trying to give them the very best solution for moving forward. Okay, so system air pressure and airflow is a consideration for cooling too. Again, the OEM matches them for a reason, including the air moving equipment, and this, of course, for you results in higher sales tickets, higher quality customers. So just real quick on the software to help you with a couple things here. I wanted to show you some stuff. This is, your login area. Here's your primary modules. I clicked on the document center here for my first step. What I want to show you here is, and I have a lot of documents in here, you won't, okay? But if you get down into the F's, you're going to find a couple things. You're going to find all the field collection forms, which many of you may have used in the early days. This, for example, is the furnace one. You can just go over here and download it and print it off. That allows you to write down the readings from the field on paper before entering them in the software. Okay. The one I want to show you here is this prep guide. Okay, Furnace System VQI Prep. Strongly recommend you use this for preparation. And again, this means pain relief. Okay. It's a nice little abbreviated training. Just a few steps it'll walk you through. Later, it's going to give you a little more color on those steps, but I'm just going to talk to you about the first three. Step 1, determine your target CFM, maximum CFM, and minimum CFM. Okay? So you're going to have a temporize here, and you're going to have the minimum and the maximum. Maybe that's 40 to 70 or 35 to 65, and then you're going to have a target in there, which may be right in the middle. From these, you can determine what your target CFM is, what your maximum CFM is, and what your minimum CFM. So before you leave, you can establish a range. What's the low end of my airflow, acceptable low end of my airflow, the high end of my acceptable airflow, and then what am I shooting for here? Okay? Step 2, you can build your expected pressure conditions and then also your blower setting in CFM. So at this point, you can pull your air resistance tables for the filter and the coil, and you have from step 1 your target CFM. So then you can determine, okay, well, my rated pressure drop across the filter at my target CFM is this. My rated pressure drop across the coil at my target CFM is this. And then I'm going to have a return and a supply pressure drop. Now, some of you may do detailed formal duct calculations. Some of you may just use the typical design of, 0.1 each. We tend to see here in Iowa, something between, 0.1 and 0.2, frankly. But, that's okay, because by the time you add the 4 pressure points up, your total expected external static pressure is probably still going to be below the blower max. But that's what you'll want to pay attention to. All right. Additionally, you may have to make modifications to the drop, add a return, what have you, to solve a return air problem. And then you'll be able to look at the blower table before you leave to determine what you believe to be the setting necessary for that target CFM at that expected pressure conditions. The third and final step of prep, which I would not skip this, and that's to determine what when you clock the gas meter, what the expected firing rate or on rate of that furnace is going to be. It looks here that I have a typo. I meant to put a 1/2 foot and a 2 foot, so I'll correct that after this call. Nonetheless, you can use the gas meter chart to know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. We have some comments here on duct. Again, that's not part of this program. And then it shows you the most relevant part of the test results, which in this case we're dealing with a 60,000 BTU furnace rated output of 58,000. After I clocked the gas meter, I was firing at 57,865, so that's my potential. And then I'm actually delivering 52,595 BTUs of heat. So that's a score 91, excuse me. That's this numeral divided by this numeral. 85 to 110 is acceptable. And then as we get deeper here, we talk a little bit more about what to do in step 1. So for example, this had a 40 to 70 degree temporize, targeted temporize of 55. So my targeted CFM was 976. My maximum CFM was 1343, which of course would be at the lower end of the temporize range. And then my minimum CFM is 767, which would be at the high end of the temporize range. Then we can use that 976 to determine our expected pressure drops. We'll go to the nearest number, so 976 is not present here, so we'll use 1,000. So my expected coil pressure drop is 0.2. My expected filter pressure drop is 0.19. So I add 0.2, 0.19 to my expected return and supply pressure drops to get my expected total external static pressure, which would be 0.63. And then of course I can just pull the blower chart and I can say, okay, I expect to be around here, 0.6 for my total external static pressure. And I'm looking for 973. Guess what? It's right here. So my blower setting is likely going to be medium high. And then, because I'm shooting, it's a 60,000 BTU furnace at a rated output of 58,000. I expect on a 2-foot meter to be clocked around, let me just scroll that back up. 2-foot meter. I should be clocking around just under 122 seconds, half foot just under 30 seconds or under 31 seconds. And a few more pages here, just remind you where to take the readings, and then I put a full gas meter chart in here. Okay, the final step to the webinar is how it might look on the software. How are you going to process it on the software? So this is my demo account, and I have the Black Hills 2017 residential furnace job type in here. Now it's already in here, but I'm just going to show you real quick. For those of you that are, I guess, may not be familiar with this, which can't be many, it's very much just a simple question and answer. So once you add the customer and start the job, you'll be answering questions. 3 steps, 1, 2, 3. Step 1 is about the customer and the rebate. Step 2 is the rated, the equipment make, model number, rated specs. Step 3 is your readings. Okay? So these answers are already in here, but I'm going to be typing installation date, January 1st, account, name on the account, so on and so forth. Once I answer all these questions, I hit save and continue, and I might get another set. In this particular case, it's asking me, did I also do a thermostat? I answered yes. I did not answer no, I answered yes. So I hit save and continue, and then I'm going to be answering questions about the thermostat. I get to the end of this page, I'm asked about whether I sold a water heater. I said no. I hit save and continue, and I'm done with the first step. So it's very much a similar experience with step 2 and 3. I won't do it now, but step 2 is model numbers, rated specs, so on and so forth. And then step 3 is your readings, okay? Your setup, I'm doing a furnace. The coil is external. What's my fan speed? The filter external. and then it gets into my static pressure drops, my temperatures, temperature rise, my CFM, and then at the end here it asks me about clocking the gas meter. So we still are asking for room temps, three grills, if you can get to 3 grills, and then 3 registers. And again, that's for the purpose of quality assurance, helping the software to auto-verify the job. Once all this is done, I got to hit the Save and Continue button down here. I'm to the reports. And you'll see 3 of these. You'll see the we've integrated the rebate form, which at your option you can use. You don't have to, but it looks nice because it's pre-populated. Saves a little bit of time from having to fill it out by hand. The test results is the document you'll use to approve the job yourself, and then it's also the one that you'll submit to the utility. So I'll hit download there. And here is the commissioning report, test results. And again, we're looking at equipment performance with this particular incentive. Again, you can see the rated output is 58,000 BTUs. After we clocked the gas meter, it was almost perfectly fired. Doesn't have to be, but in this case it almost was. And then we're creating 48,996 BTUs of heat. Okay? So essentially we've got a score of 85, which again is this number divided by this number. Now this is a pass, but it's on the lower end of the range, so a lot of contractors would say, hey, I want to make this better. What do I need to look at here? And then you go to the second page and you look at your diagnostics and your reading. Well, the CFM that I plotted from the blower chart was 973, and 975, and I was looking for 973, so I feel good about that. My total measured external static pressure is 0.57. I was expecting 0.63, pretty close, okay? But you might want to think about this to get really confident about these, because you're using these numbers to determine this number. And if you got these wrong down here, then that's going to be wrong right here, okay? The best way to do this is to compare your measured filter drops at the your measured drops at the filter and the coil to those rated pressure drops that you gathered from the air resistance tables. You know, they don't have to be the same, but you know that if they're in the neighborhood, you're getting good readings, okay? And if you're getting good readings on pressures and you're using pressures and fan speed to determine CFM, then you're going to get good CFM. So this all looks comfortable up here. Now, if I look down at my temperatures, I see my temp rise is 47. So if you remember, at 973, I was looking for 55 degrees. So my temp rise isn't nearly as high as I expected it to be, okay? So that's where you're going to get into tuning your combustion, okay? So you'll tune it until you get up to 55. Or close to 55. Again, this is a pass. You could walk at this point, but you might want to try to make this the best that you possibly can. All right, and then once I approve it, I'd go ahead and hit this submit button right here and submit that to the utility. And at that point, I can track it moving forward. Okay. Once I hit submit, this will check mark here, submitted. And once the utility receives it, they'll acknowledge its receipt. And then they can track it moving forward. Did they get all the other stuff that you need to send them, signed rebate forms, copies of invoices? Are there corrections needed? And if there are, did you resubmit it? Eventually they'll hit approved or denied, and you'll be able to track that through. You'll also be able to add comments back and forth. They might, for example, add a comment looking for some clarity from you, and you might comment back. And that's all part of the collaboration experience that we have with the contractor and the verifier. So that concludes our webinar today, and we'll move on to questions. I hope the presentation proves to be useful, and we look forward to working with you.